Going live now. Let's see. Just give it a second to get started and we are good to go. Awesome. Well, look at that. You survived, the first 5 seconds so far. So welcome to everybody who's joining us tonight for the Command Post. We are on episode, I think it's number 19 that we're on right now. And I couldn't be happier to introduce you to today's guests, mostly because I also have a passion for reading. So I really feel a bond with these ladies already. I would like to introduce you to members of the Canadian Military Spouse Book Club. And today we have with us, joining us, Debbie, we have Stephanie, we have Christine, and we have Leah. So thank you all for joining us today, guys.
Thanks
for having us.
It's so nice to have you here. So I have so many questions because we had a great chat last week before, in prepping for this. And I told you I made like a million pages of notes. But before we kind of do anything, before I even want to dig into the actual book club and what it is that you guys do, I want everybody to have a chance to get to know you. So Christine, you and I met first. So I want to start with you. And just correct me if I'm wrong. You are currently in Ottawa and your spouse is in the Navy service.
Yes.
Okay, so tell us, because I know this is very fresh for you, tell us what your military journey looks like. How did you become part of a military family?
Yep, so my husband's been, he was in the Army Reserves before he switched into the Navy, and he's just finishing up university in Ottawa, and so we met while we were at school. We haven't had too much military experience yet, but we have had a little bit, and with COVID, he was home a little bit more than we expected, so yeah, we haven't had too much. We just got married in December and we are moving out to BC in the spring. So that's exciting. But it's been fun to build this community so early to have this going forward, because I know there will be many challenges ahead.
Were you living in Ottawa when your husband started his training, or did you actually have to move to Ottawa for the training?
No, we met in Ottawa, and then he had his first training like a few months after we met. He was gone for the summer.
And he was in Wainwright for that?
No, he was in Quebec, and then he was in Halifax. He was in a couple different places over the course of the summer.
So you get married and you're in COVID and your spouse is away and you're lonely. And so you do what?
So he went away before COVID. We just moved in together like very soon after we met, and then he went away for the whole summer. So that was challenging. It was new. And then I met Leah through my husband. I said, I need a wife to talk to. I'm like, I need a friend. This is a lot. So we started chatting every day on the course, and then the course ended, and then we kept chatting and we became really good friends. And then in 2019, would have been November, we started book club, and the rest is history.
And you're saying he went on training and you're like, I need a friend. This is a lot. What was it about, him being on training that felt overwhelming and felt a lot, that you were kind of like, I need some connection here?
Yeah, because I was in school, everyone was gone for the summer. Everyone had gone home, but I lived in Ottawa year round. So I didn't really have any friends from school to see. And then with him being gone, and we had just moved, so I was, putting 2 apartments together and all of that fun stuff. And I was in full-time school. So there was a few barriers there, but.
And then you met Leah, and Leah, you are out in Shearwater, right?
Yes.
So have you guys ever actually met in person?
No,
I love it. But look at what technology can do now. We're all friends now. So Leah, your husband is also in the Navy, correct?
Yeah.
And interesting, this piqued my interest. So you were actually married before your husband decided that he wanted to go into the military. So tell us how that worked.
Yeah, we were married for a few years, and then he said, I want to join the military. And of course, I said yes and supported him. And we joined the reserve, the Army Reserve at the time. We were living in Pembroke Command, and after a couple years of that, he switched and he went into the regular force in the Navy, which sent us to Shearwater.
Your sound is a little bit funny, Leah. I wonder if there's a way to adjust it at all, or if there's maybe your pods you want to put in. So why is it because it sounded like you weren't even hesitating when your husband wanted to go into the military? What is it that made you want, like, you guys jumped in with 2 feet?
1 second.
Let's see. I think that's a little better.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, that's way better. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I had tried years before I even knew my husband to try to get in. So that was one reason why I supported him. And also he has an uncle in. So that was one big.
And I know that you didn't end up in the
push for him to get
military,
into.
but what made you have such an affinity for the military?
Well, just I wanted to get in myself. So I, of course I would support it. If I could be in, I would, but unfortunately I can't.
Yeah, and
so I will live vicariously through him.
And you have 2 kids, 2 and 4.
Yes.
And
2 and 4.
have you guys, and sorry?
Yes, they're 2 and 4.
2 and 4. And have you guys moved at all? Like right now you are in Shearwater. Have you guys always been in Shearwater?
Well, we started in Corner Brook, and when he switched to the Navy, we moved to Shearwater, and that's the only moving we've done.
Okay, perfect. And then who came next? Was it Stephanie that came in next, or was it Debbie that came in next? Debbie. Okay, so Debbie, I'm going to flip over to you. Sorry, Stephanie, you're going to have to, I promise I won't forget about you. So Debbie, you, unlike Christine, and not better, not worse, but Christine's like super fresh to this. She's like, woo, we've been married a couple months. And Debbie, you've had 29 years of experience doing this. So tell us about your military family journey.
I guess it's a little bit more than 29 years because I met my husband about 1.5 years before we got married. So about 30.5 years we've been at it. I met my husband on a blind date, so to speak. A mutual friend used to send me out to walk her dog in the PMQs. We worked together, and she would send my husband over also asking him if he would go walk the dog. And he would get to the house and the dog wasn't there. I'd be out walking it and he'd sit on the step and I'd be coming down the street and he'd be like looking at me like, what the heck? Who's this person walking the dog? Did they steal it? And she just kept finding other ways to kind of make sure that we crossed paths or met up or whatever. And eventually we went out on a date to a movie. And
Very nice.
Here we are, 29 years married next month. 29
years. And in the meantime, guys, we have people watching. I want to give a shout out to everybody watching from Moncton, from Dundurn, from Trenton, from Kentville. And I don't know if anybody knows this woman, but Patricia Holmes says, hi, ladies.
She's on apartments.
So hi, Patricia. Thanks for watching and joining us today. Debbie, so a couple things, because you've gone through some really interesting periods during your military family career. So at first, when he was not your husband and he was part of the military, tell us what that was like, because he was on deployment and he really had no entitlement to anything.
Well, it was, we were engaged and we had a wedding planned in the summer, and he came home from work and said, I'm being slated to go to Kuwait after the Gulf War in 92. And he had asked at work if they would bring him home on his leave for our wedding. And they said they couldn't guarantee, because they didn't know how things, being the first tour over there, how things were going to go. So then we were going to get married in the fall. And that's when I found out that I didn't have any entitlement back then. They didn't consider common law as your next of kin. So if anything had happened to my husband overseas, I wouldn't have been the first to be notified. I wouldn't have had any of his benefits or anything like that from the base. So we decided to get married before he left. The military church would not marry us because we hadn't had our marriage prep course yet. So we went around to the churches in the area and we found a Lutheran.
Who's going to take us?
A Lutheran minister sat down with us for a couple hours and said, hey, yeah, I'll marry you. You seem to know what you're doing. But the only time I have before he leaves is a Friday the 13th at night. So that's when we got married.
So you couldn't get married originally because of the Gulf War. Yeah. And then you booked a last minute wedding. And then what happened 2 weeks after you got married?
He left on the honeymoon to Kuwait. I stayed home.
That's quite the honeymoon.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe, I don't know, maybe that's the key to like good marriage. You've been together 30 years and obviously you're making it work. So maybe that's the secret. Yeah. And Christine, if you don't mind if I pick your brain for a second, because Debbie experienced what it was like to be engaged to somebody in the military many years ago. as somebody who is engaged to somebody in the military, would you have the benefits? Would you be considered next of kin now at this point, now that we're, 30 years later?
You can become common law after, I think it's 1 year of living together.
6 months, 6 months to a year. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Perfect. So nice.
You know what? Each province might be a little different. I don't know if the military has like a blanket set of months, but I think in Ontario, I think it's a year. So it may be different in other places.
Okay. So nice
It's
to know.
a year over here too, or unless you have a baby.
Oh yeah.
So we've updated with the times. That's good to know. Okay. So, and what else do I have down here? And okay. And you have 3 children.
I do.
And you are, you were based out of CFB Pet because your husband was Army, and he just recently, I don't know how recent, was medically released from the military, correct?
Yes, he was. It was in June of this last summer. He was released. He did 32 years in the military. He started as an engineer and remustered to supply tech. And he finished off his career as the RQ of Service Battalion in base Petawawa. We never moved from Petawawa. He just got interbase posted from unit to unit to unit. So we never were posted. So we are going into retirement pretty good because we own our house, and we're doing okay. So
for you. And how old are your kids?
My kids are 22, 24, and 27 in a couple of days.
So for those of you who currently have kids, and and Stephanie, I'll ask you to pipe up for this, even though I haven't grilled you about your past yet. What's it like raising children in the military? Like, how do you kind of talk about your other half's job to your kids? And I put that out as a blanket statement to any of you who have kids. So
mine are older. So, but when they were younger, we were pretty honest with them. We had to do a Christmas alone without my husband. He was overseas. I think that was the toughest thing and toughest on the kids. When my husband went to Afghanistan with the field hospital unit, it was one of the years that we had quite a few casualties in Canada. And I would get phone calls from the school that my oldest would have to leave the classroom because he'd be out crying in the halls and, different things. So it is hard on the kids, and all you can do is be a good support, use the support systems that the military has out with you. And like I said, we try to keep, back then we didn't have cell phones for our husbands and things like that. Like a lot of them have nowadays, but my kids wrote letters almost daily, and they drew pictures of themselves laying down. So dad could have a drawing of how big they'd gotten, like while he was gone, and different things like that. So yeah, it's definitely a challenge.
So one of the, it's funny because you mentioned Christmas time. So one of the things that our organization has done, I don't know if you know about it, but we started these care packages that go out to families who have a deployed spouse overseas during the holiday seasons, because we just realize, the tremendous bravery and resilience that your families have to face to, have that season alone by yourselves, and essentially sacrifice that time with your loved one because they're off doing good for our country. But it's important that we don't lose sight of who's making that ultimate sacrifice back home as well.
I think that's
so
awesome.
Thank you for that. No, thank you for that.
I think that's awesome.
I want to go over to Stephanie for a minute so that she has her moment in the sun. So Steph, so you are currently based out of Pet?
Yes.
Perfect. And your spouse is Army?
He is, yes.
Okay, so start from the beginning. How did you become a part of the military family?
So we actually met the day before. He had just arrived to Ormukto for training, and I was leaving to Alberta to move with my family the next day. So we met crossing through the community, and we stayed in touch. And then a few years later, I ended up in Peterborough living with my mom, starting my teaching career. And he was in Petawawa, and we visit and stuff. And then one day he said, "Hey, I have a wedding I have to go to. Would you like to come with me?" So I went to a big military wedding. So jumped right into the military community. And then basically from that point on, every weekend I was either in Petawawa or he was at my house. And the next year we moved in, and then he was away on course, and he had proposed in January, and we found out while he was away, well, not on course, he was in the field. And we found out while he was there that we were getting posted. So instead of having almost 2 years to plan a wedding in Toronto, we had just under 4 months. And that's it. We got married, and the morning after our wedding, I sent him off on a plane to Gagetown for
the morning after.
So yeah, he was already a couple days late. So the morning after, we were up at like 6:30, 7 o'clock the morning.
You guys do honeymoons in a very different way in the military.
I know. So and yeah, we've been in Gagetown for a long time, and then we got a posting message to be posted here this summer, and then there was some reshuffling because of COVID, and so he found out he was also getting a deployment. So he left for his deployment, and a month later I moved the family.
Yeah. Okay. So I need to dive into this for a second, because when I spoke to you the other day, I was like, what is happening? So you were in Gagetown for a while, and then you find out you're being posted to PET.
Yeah.
But at the same time, and not only are you being posted to PET, but you have to move during COVID. And then at the same time, you're finding out your husband's going to Latvia.
Yes.
Or is in Latvia. So you move by yourself. And how did you buy a house? Because this was the mind-blowing thing.
Yeah. So we found out like regular APS season kind of thing. So it was like in March or whatever. So like you weren't traveling, people weren't allowed to go in people's houses. They had canceled all HHTs and everything. So we're like, okay, well, we need to buy a house before you deploy, because if we don't, that makes things way more complicated, because then we need to use power of attorney documents way more often than I would like. And I have to make way too many decisions on my own. So we found an agent, and we bought a house virtually. So he toured, we had looked a lot. And the good thing is there were a lot more video and 3D things available because of COVID.
Right.
So we did our research, and we could only visit a couple houses. And then we bought the house. So we had an inspection done to make sure there was nothing drastically wrong, and we just went with it. So.
And then you moved. So now your husband's in Latvia, and now you have to move to Petawawa by yourself with a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old to a house you've never seen.
Yes. Yes. It was definitely interesting. We're lucky that like my in-laws are like 5 hours away. So they offered to come and help a little bit at first, just so that they came to stay for a couple of weeks. It was before everything hit the red and things were like completely isolated and stuff. Right. So we were lucky timing wise and out. Otherwise it would have been even more complicated.
Do we like our in-laws? Really quick, like we need to because to some people that would be like, oh no, I'm good, thanks.
Mine are really great, and they're super, super supportive, and
awesome.
They do a lot. Yeah, no, it's really great. It's not one. I know some people who like the in-laws over is like an imposition, not an imposition, but like you feel like but they're super helpful, and like I didn't feel like I was hosting or anything, so that was great. Like I could be like, I just need you guys to help organize this, please, and they'd go off and like put all the books in the bookshelves and organize the garage for me. So
and so okay, so now. How long have you been in PET for at this point?
So we've been here since like the end July, early August.
Okay, so you're finally, so you get in, you unpack, you're finally settled, you get your kids into like a semi-routine, and 3 weeks ago,
my husband returns.
Your husband returns. So,
and ever. He saw it from the outside for 2 minutes when he drove by it before his deployment. So there's definitely an adjustment period.
So how are the kids finding it with dad now home?
They're loving it right now.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we decided to do, there was my daughter, when we moved here, she would technically be supposed to be in JK, and we opted to keep her home just because they've never been in daycare. I've always been like new house, no friends, that like all like they lost all their regular friends, new house, dad is gone. And with COVID and all the extra rules, I feel like going into like the school system would have been even more complex for them and more difficult. So we decided to homeschool her. So we've been home all day, every day. So I think right now they're just really excited to like each have an adult sometimes. Like they don't have to fight over who mom is going to help, because they can each just buddy up with a
You actually said something earlier, Steph, and I don't know if this applies to all of you. Debbie, I know you haven't had to move, and Christine, you are moving, and Leah, you did move from Newfoundland at one point. Steph, did you say you were going into teaching? Is that your career?
Yeah.
How does that work? And I know I'm opening a huge can of worms here. How does that work if you're coming from Gagetown and now you're coming into Petawawa? Are you like, because I know that is a huge point of difficulty for the military, any military spouse who has that non-transferable designation. So what does that mean for you guys right now?
So luckily I'd been registered to teach here before in Ontario because that's where I first started teaching. And I was also registered in New Brunswick because that's where I did my education degree. So I was automatically registered there. So I just have to renew. Isn't too bad. The renewal process is a bit more complicated in Ontario. The biggest thing is just like getting the jobs and the contracts. So I speak French, so I'm fluent. So I'm very lucky because I can go through like all like the French Catholic, the French public, the English Catholic, and the English public boards if I wanted to. But I'm sure it's the same with every job. Like I have a lot of friends who are nurses too. And it's just, you always get like that contract that nobody else really wants when you're the person always moving around. You get like the bad hours or the one where like you don't really have consistency in your day or you're jumping around all the time and things like that. So I know like getting certified and just getting those like life is already unstable and then you're not getting the stable, consistent work on top of it in those types of professions. So I think that definitely makes it a little bit more complicated, but yeah.
And Christine and Leah, do you like what career paths have you guys taken? Like as you've moved, has it disrupted your careers at all?
Well, since I was so new, when I first started dating my husband, I started talking to all these military spouses and I was trying to figure out what I was going to do because I knew it was going to be an issue. So I was pursuing neuroscience, which I hope to return to at some point, but I'm currently working virtually for a podcast and I'm working on my integrative health practitioner certificate, which will allow me to practice virtually so that no matter where we are, I can have some kind of work.
Awesome. And Leah, how has it affected you at all? How in terms of your moving?
Well, I signed up for the Military Spouse Initiative when we moved here, and
tell us what that is.
It's a job pool, basically, where you literally sit and wait for emails, and if there's a job that suits you, you'll get an email about it, and if you're interested, you just reply that you're interested, and basically hope you get an interview.
And for those watching that don't necessarily know about this, how do you access that? Do you have to do that through an MFRC? Is there a website?
It's through the job bank, and you need.
I think you can access it through like the MFRC. It's the military. What's it called? Military Spouse Employment Initiative or something like that. If people Google it, yes. Thing will come up and you can put in your resume and stuff. And Leah's had great success with it.
I found it right on the job bank.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really great. Okay, so and now that I've interrogated the heck out of you guys, I really want to know about this book club. So Christine and Leah, you guys found each other, long lost friends. Oh my God, we're lonely. We love books. Although funny enough, Christine, you never loved books.
I didn't.
Do you love them now at least, or is this still torture?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, good. Okay, you've transformed her. So it was just the two of you, and so kind of start at the beginning. How long ago was this exactly?
November 2019 we started.
Okay.
So we just opened a Facebook group, and I was like, I said, Leah, I want to start a book club. I said, start this with me, and she was like, okay. And then we picked a few books, and then some members joined and they said, no, we really want polls. So then we started voting as a group, and within a couple months, like we grew quite quickly. So then we brought, we both really liked Debbie. She was very active in the group from the beginning. So I was like, Leah, we need some help. What are you thinking? And we both were like, Debbie. So we brought Debbie on in the new year. And then by the end of last year, we brought on quite a few more because now we have over 600 members and we have a leadership team of 11. So
that's awesome.
A lot in a short time. So Yeah, so we read a book every month. In a couple months, we're going to start reading 2 books every month just to bring more variety and genres for all the members. And we have lots of different programming throughout the month. And we do virtual calls, and we kind of have something for everybody. So
okay, so first of all, you guys spread like wildfire, because to go from 0 to 630 members in like a year is ridiculous. So congratulations on that. And my understanding is each one of you on the call today runs your own program. So for those watching who might want to be interested in joining your book club, tell me about the individual program that you guys run. Let's start. I'm going to go this way. So Debbie, let's start with you.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay. I typically do a day a month called Superstar Saturday. And it's where we highlight one member from the group. It can either be nominated by somebody or somebody I might see posting about something on another group, see that they have a hobby or they've done something really incredible or they have a business. And I'll contact them and ask them if they'd like to be highlighted. And it's just a thread just with their basic info on what they do. This coming month, I have a lady who runs a dance studio in Petawawa. Took dance all her life, but she also knits and has a little side business of knitting and things like that. So, it'll just be a fun day and then the members can pop on and ask her questions. If members if it's somebody that sells something, we had someone that did macrame one month. Members can check out their website and purchase something. So it's to hopefully give some of the spouses some exposure.
Nice.
But also to celebrate those spouses. We had one that did her first ocean dive. And it was to highlight, that and share with her that great experience that she had. So,
are you able to promote businesses that might be run by military spouses?
Yeah, this is the day that we do it. We don't allow, like on a regular day, any other thing besides sort of book posts or anyone posting about a business on any other form. But this is kind of the one day that they get to, that one gets to shine. So yeah, so if they do have a business, we put all their links in and try and garner some business for them too. So
that's so nice. And Leah, which is the program that you run for the book club?
So I run the Canadian authors. It's a way just to either promote a Canadian author similar to the Superstar Saturday, or we actually include it as another book of the month. So it's a little blurb about their book, a bio on them, any links they have to their book, if you can buy it on a website or, a shop or anything. And we, encourage the authors to participate in a giveaway of some kind, usually of one of their books, or if they have any swag or anything like bookmarks, stickers.
And I think I'm right when I say this, that sometimes you actually invite the authors to come and join you on calls so that people can ask them questions about the literature.
Yeah, and we'll have a little call.
Who are some? I know you've had Kim Mills, who's been on our show. So shout out to Kim Mills. What other authors have you had join you so far?
Kim was our first one for a call. We just started this Canadian Author Day because near the end of last year, we were having a lot of authors reach out to us.
Nice.
And Leah's husband's actually an author. So we started with him, I think, last
October.
Yeah. And then we had a big influx of people messaging us. So we started that. So we have quite a few coming this year. I'm trying to think of who our next
one this weekend.
Who should we be watching out for?
Aaron Clark is this weekend.
Yeah, Aaron Clark we have this weekend. We're going to have a website up soon, and we have a page. We'll have a page for authors where they can submit forms if they're interested in being featured. And then we do also put our books and stuff on there.
So if you're watching here tonight and you want to learn more, we're going to put the website up on our Facebook page so that you can go take a look. Steph, what do you run?
I usually do the question a day. So the last week of the month, when most people are coming to the end of the book, we start like with easier, more general questions for people who might not have read it. And then we have one question from Monday to Friday for discussion of the book, just for fun. And then it's nice for people who can't make it till the live calls to have more book specific and like story and plot and character specific questions kind of thing to chat about. And then we also, I did a few times in the past few months, the coffee break chats, which is a live call just to socialize, especially with COVID right now, people aren't getting together in person. So we usually have maybe a turnout of 4 to 8 people most of the time, I would say. And everybody just sits and chats and it's fun. Yeah.
That's really nice. And Christine, you kind of run it all, right? Like you're just making sure everything's happening, and you're doing the social media, and or I don't remember. Do you have one program in particular that you focus on, or you're just kind of making sure all the?
I kind of help with all the programs.
Yeah.
And help with the whole team. And we're very lucky to have Stephanie, because we're going to start incorporating a lot more French this year. So Stephanie's taking on that. So that's going to be something new coming this year as well.
Awesome. Do you guys have any like C-Spot Run books that's like the equivalent to French? Because that's sort of where I'm at in terms of my level. So if you have any recommendations, let me know. My 9-year-old daughter is like surpassing me at this point. So
we have a kids read day that comes once a month too, that highlights kids books and some French ones in it. So there you go.
Wonderful. That's awesome. So I have to ask you guys, you have so many people that have just flocked to your website. What do you think it is aside from a love of reading, what do you think it is about these military spouses that are just so enticed by your group?
I've heard people say on other websites that they like that it's a very friendly group, for one. We've had no drama on the actual group. They like that it's about books and it's kept sort of to that model. They like that they can chat too. Like we have some fun stuff, a few fun games that, we have. And so they kind of get a feeling of it's almost like kind of coming home, like a nice place that they can kind of sit and get away from reality for a little bit too. So. Right.
Mm-hmm. And it seems like, I want to ask a few things in general. So number one, what do you think is, because you're all military spouses, what do you think is unique about being a military spouse versus a spouse of somebody else in a different career? And I have my very strong thoughts, but I'd rather hear it from you guys in terms of what you think it's unique. And what I'm going to find interesting is to hear, from Christine, who's just starting out, to Steph and Leah, who are kind of in the middle, to Debbie, who's at the tail end of that career there. So what is it? What do you find unique about being a military spouse? I'm going to start with Christine because you're newest to the group.
I think I was going to pull from all the experienced spouses. I think in the first summer we were apart, I think being, don't get me wrong, I like my alone time, but after like the first couple of weeks, I hadn't seen like a human being other than at the grocery store. And I was like, okay, this is really different. And it's just hard being alone all the time. And definitely the uncertainty, because the plans between courses and where he was going to be changed quite a few times, which I had heard of, but hadn't experienced until that point. So I think just the uncertainty, and for me, the biggest thing was honestly just being alone for such an extended period of time.
Okay. And let's go over to Steph.
Yeah, I think the like adaptability and uncertainty of everything. And like you hear the expression in the military community a lot, like hurry up and wait. So like we're gonna be going, something's gonna be happening, but we don't know like it's today or tomorrow or a week from now, or so I definitely think like that's one big factor, that like our lives revolve around it, but we never really know what's happening with it. And then I think the other thing is just like reinventing your life all the time. Like we're lucky we've only been posted a couple times, but I know some people who were posted like 3 times in 3 years. So like I think like just there's all like the technical stuff, like finding doctors and all that kind of stuff, but it's also like making a new home and like getting your kids settled and just like it's making new friends. The great thing is you have friends everywhere if you move around enough, because you meet people everywhere and then you cross paths again, but you're just constantly reinventing and modifying things for the changes that it brings, whether it's a spouse being gone or a move. So yeah.
Leah, what do you think is unique about being a military spouse?
Well, all of that. And
Ditto.
Also, yeah. Well, I was going to say all that, and you guys just, said it first. And the resiliency, with the spouses, and I find too with the kids, they're just, they bounce back so quick. I mean, they're just to really look at them, and you get their strength. You get your strength from watching them, I find.
And Debbie, the seasoned military spouse, tell us all the secrets.
I don't know that there's any secrets. It's a lot of adaptability. You have to be able to adapt. And even though we were never posted, things often adapted here. I have no family in the area. So, you know, I'm out here with my husband, and his family is still was still a few hours away. So I didn't have that closeness. You have to be open. You have to be open to what's happening in their lives, happening around. You have to be open to meeting new people and making new connections with other wives and things in the community that go through it. I found with my husband, sometimes I didn't want to talk about everything that maybe was not sitting well with me at times, because I never wanted to make my husband feel like he picked a career that was, you know, really bothering me. So I found solidarity in other wives and other girlfriends, you know, that were going through. And I'm really, really fortunate, even though I've been here and haven't posted and met friends along the way. I can say that I have friends from one coast to the other coast in Canada. They may have all left here and come back and left, but we can travel pretty much anywhere in Canada and stop at somebody's house and feel like we never left them. You know, it's just a real kinship with I find with military spouses. So,
And I think,
yeah,
oh,
go ahead.
sorry.
No, please go ahead.
Debbie said something, and it really made me think too, just the that, like, to be able to adapt and to modify and be open to things. You often hear about people being scared of posting, like, oh, we're moving and I don't know anyone in the area and stuff. And the great thing about the military community is everybody's experienced it. Even if you haven't left, you've had people leave you and you know what it's like. So I feel like the military community is just waiting with arms open at your next posting location. You just have to be ready to embrace it and go out and get it. You know what I mean? Like,
adventure. It's an adventure being a military spouse. You look at it that
exactly.
way. It's a roller coaster
Yeah,
adventure of your life, in a sense. You never know what's coming around the next bend. But
Well, okay,
take
so
it
my
over
next
the ride.
my next question, and maybe you answer it. My next question is, what's the biggest positive about being a military spouse or being part of a military family that resonates with you?
Well, for me, I think I said, like, you know, for me, it's a lot of the friendships that I made, you know, through it. I think for myself too, it tested me, and I was a lot stronger than I thought I would ever be. Like I had a lot more strength inside me and a lot more that I realized I could do. And like even fixing things around the house that maybe I wasn't the most mechanical or handy, but you know, you learn to hang your own pictures, you learn to fix the leaky pipe, you learn to do those things, you know, you learn to search out things in the community that maybe you weren't comfortable with, but you know, and you learn just those kind of things for me were positives. It made me, I think, in a sense, be a better person in the end too. But a lot of that's too, because I was open to, you know, embracing everything that came with it. So,
Christine, what do you think is the biggest positive so far? I know that you're just getting your feet wet, but what's been the most positive thing so far for you? And I feel like you almost have the shaft, because the only experience you have right now is in COVID. So it's got to be tainted a little bit.
Our experience was prior to COVID, and then we had COVID, and we did actually have a move in COVID, but it wasn't military. So we did have some different things, but it's definitely been the community. Like when I was, after that first summer, it was like, oh my gosh, I need to find people to talk to, and, you know, people who get it. And I was, taken aback by how tight knit the community is. And like Stephanie said, you know, they're waiting really with open arms, and you got to just seek it out. And that's really why we created book club, was to create another space for that. And with COVID, we also, I think, been able to grow our platform a lot more, because, you know, people can't go out. So we do hope to one day have in-person book club events, because I know a lot of people want that, and we would love that too. So
that's awesome. And Leah and Steph, what do you think are the biggest positives from being a military spouse?
I think just how accepting everyone is, and just how I find it so much easier to talk to another military spouse, and they're just, because they've been through it, they know what it's like, you know, like the other said, like, it's just, you know, and there can be a lot of drama in different areas, but luckily I haven't come across that yet. Not so much.
Steph, what do you think?
I have to agree, like, just that kinship, and it's among spouses, but like our experience is a bit different this time, because we chose to move a bit further out so we could have a bit more property and that kind of thing. But like our last posting, we were like in the Ormocto West area, so anybody who knows the base there, they know it's like a big residential community, and it's really full. And I had a friend 5 houses down and one 2 houses down across the street and one at the end of the road, and my husband would be gone, and like I wouldn't even ask. I'd get up in the morning and I'd look outside and there were 3 husbands clearing my driveway. You know what I mean? Like everybody has been through it. Everybody has helped amongst themselves kind of thing. And it's that kinship and that knowledge that, as scary as it might be sometimes to have them gone or to be alone and to feel overwhelmed, that net is there. Like there's people there to catch you and to help. And sometimes you don't even need to ask because they all know, like, if I was gone, I know someone would be plowing my wife's driveway. So we're just going to go do the same. You know what I mean? So
that's nice. And I have a couple more questions, and I promise I'll release you from your grip. Go back to your younger selves, or even those who are about to become about to become part of a military family. But what do you wish you had known before becoming part of a military family? What do you wish you could go back and tell yourself in terms of advice as to like kind of how to make this journey?
Yikes, that's a hard one.
It's not as bad as it seems.
That's good. Okay. How bad does it seem?
Well, before our move, I did the bad thing and I went on Facebook. And I read all the horror stories about moves. So I was like, I was preparing for the worst thing to happen, me to lose all my clothes and all my dishes. And when we moved, we had a perfect move. Like it went better than expected. Because no one ever posts about the good ones, right? They don't say, oh, I had a perfect move, like I had all my furniture. But yeah, don't read it.
So advice for your younger self: it's not as bad as you think it's going to be. Okay, kind of positive, like hoping for something more inspirational, but we'll start with that. I'm not going to pick who's next. I keep throwing you guys under the bus, so you guys volunteer who's going to go next.
Change is not always bad. I look back on my hubby and I getting married, losing our wedding and getting married, 2 weeks before he left, and we had 11 people. My dad didn't make it. His dad didn't make it to the wedding. Both our moms did. We got married in the back chapel, but I wore my wedding gown. My husband wore a suit, but it was okay. And I look back, we've made it 29 years with the money that we didn't spend on the wedding. We bought a house, so change, you have to always look at the positives. I would say to myself, like, don't always think that that's the end of it. There's always something farther ahead, even though it looks like it's not the greatest right now. It'll all pan out and things will be good in the end, just have faith.
Good. Steph, Christine?
I think for me, I did a lot of research when I met my husband, because honestly, when he told me he was in the military, I was like, there's no way I'm like, we're going to date. I'm like, and then the next thing you know, we're dating, and 3 months later we're living together. But I ended up just looking up a lot of different things and finding a few close friends. You don't need a lot, but whenever I'm like freaking out about something, I message Leah and she's like, oh yeah, I've done that. This is going to happen. It's going to be fine. And, just having that community to lean on when you're in the times of uncertainty.
Does Stephanie have a visitor there? We have a visitor. Welcome to COVID. I get them regularly.
Yeah, no, I think one thing kind of in the same vein as everyone else is like what we were saying earlier is like, it's okay. He's okay for a second. Don't cut. They're still getting used to having mommy away. Don't cut, and he has COVID hair. Don't cut yourself, like, don't sell yourself short, like, and have faith and confidence in yourself. Like, there might be tough parts, just a minute, dude. There might be tough parts and it might get complicated and it might seem really difficult and overwhelming at times, but like, you will get through it. Things will work out in the end and it'll be okay. It'll be good.
And finally, in the spirit of book club, give me your favorite book, guys. Give everybody a recommendation. What did you read that you absolutely loved?
For me, it was The Henna Artist last year. It was definitely my top one from last year.
Okay. Leah?
I gotta go with Kim Mill's books, all of them.
Awesome. Okay.
Anything she's written and will write.
Last year, this is completely different genre, but I listened to the audiobook for Ready Player One.
Okay.
And so it's like a spy novel, and that was really, really good. I loved that. But I have to say, I have it right here, so I'm going to show it. But this is our May read, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. And this is definitely like, I will be 5-starring it. It is like one of my favorite, like it moves fast. The story is really good. I really liked it.
I added it to my list because of you guys. And Christine, favorite book?
Last year we read Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine, and I really liked
That
that.
was really good too. And this is coming from somebody who hated books, so it's nice to know that they've reformed you.
Yeah, well, actually, Kim's book in January was the first hard copy I bought since we started book club, because I usually do audiobooks, and Leah's like, you have to get all her books right. So it's like, okay. And sure enough, I'm just finishing the 4th now. So
Good for you guys. Well, tell everybody who's watching if they want any more information about how to join the book club or get a hold of you guys. How do they learn more? Where do they go?
So we have a private Facebook group called Canadian Military Spouses. So it's plural, book club online. It's kind of long. I'll send a link to you so you can maybe pop it on your page for everybody.
Perfect.
And then like I said, we'll have a website up in the next week or so, which is going to be cmsbookclub.ca. And we do post in spouse groups all the time. So if you're in any of the major military spouse groups, you've probably seen book club, or you'll see it in the next couple of weeks. We try to promote like once a month or so.
Good.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, thank you all, ladies. This was a pleasure. I really enjoyed my time with you. Thank you for indulging me with harassing you with all of these questions. And you guys were great sports. So thank you all. And thank you everybody watching tonight. Have a great evening, and we'll see you back here in 2 weeks.
Thank you very much.
Bye, everybody.